begins quietly. No one notices at first. You're 7 years old, small hands, wide eyes, staring into the hollow gaze of a parent unraveling before you. Maybe it's addiction, maybe it's rage, maybe it's the silent weight of someone who has already given up. And somewhere deep inside your young mind, an ancient mechanism clicks. If I don't hold everything together, no one will. That's how a child vanishes, not from the world, but from themselves. They learn to smile a little more, cry a little less. They start to read the weather in every face around them before daring to speak. They become the invisible stabilizer of a broken household, the emotional thermostat, the peacekeeper, the one who grows up before their time. And the world rewards them for it. You're so mature, you're so responsible, you're so strong, but no one ever pauses to ask, at what cost? This is the quiet grief of those who were forced to grow up too soon. And today, we're stepping inside that psychology, the unseen pain that doesn't fade with time, because it doesn't end in childhood. It seeps into your relationships, your work, your self-worth. If you don't understand what happened, you'll spend your adult life replaying the same survival patterns, the ones that once saved you, but are now slowly suffocating you. Let's start where it all begins. When a child is made to care for the emotional chaos of an adult, psychologists call it parentification. It's when a child becomes the parent, the caregiver, the protector, the therapist, the fixer. It's not just unhealthy. It changes the architecture of the brain. When a child is forced to regulate the emotions of others, they develop something called hypervigilance, a constant scanning of the environment for threat. You learn to walk on eggshells. You learn that love is conditional, a deal that says, if I keep the peace, maybe you'll keep me safe. You learn that your needs are dangerous and theirs are sacred. So you shrink. You disappear, not physically, but emotionally. In your place grows a version of you that performs, the good child, the quiet achiever, the therapist friend, the one who never asks for anything. You wear that identity like armor until even you forget it's a disguise. But deep beneath the calm exterior, something aches. A voice that's been buried for years still whispers, "Why didn't anyone protect me?" As the years pass, the symptoms evolve. You might become fiercely independent, not out of strength, but out of fear. You might reject help because receiving feels unsafe. You might push people away, certain that intimacy always comes with debt. You may feel strangely numb in moments of joy because happiness feels foreign, unearned, even dangerous. You might never rest because rest feels like guilt and productivity feels like proof that you matter. And you might not even realize that what you call normal is just survival mode that never turned off. When dysfunction becomes familiar, peace feels wrong. Stillness feels suspicious. Love feels like a trap you'll eventually have to pay for. This is the psychology of the child who grew up too soon. It's not sadness, it's trauma, complex, invisible, and deeply human. You might wonder, why would a child ever take on that burden? Because children will do anything for attachment, even abandon themselves. The choice isn't conscious, it's biological. When safety disappears, the brain trades authenticity for belonging. That isn't weakness, that's survival, that's instinct. But the tragedy is this. What once saved you is now the very thing keeping you from living. So many of us are adults on the outside, functioning, capable, but inside, our neglected inner child still drives the wheel. We overachieve to earn love. We stay quiet to avoid conflict. We give endlessly, secretly hoping someone will finally look at us and say, "You don't have to be strong anymore." That longing, that fantasy of being seen, held, and allowed to crumble, doesn't belong to the adult you've become. It belongs to the child who never got the chance to be one. The first step toward healing isn't fixing, it's witnessing. Because until you acknowledge what happened, you'll keep gaslighting yourself. It wasn't that bad. Other people had it worse. I turned out fine. But fine is just a mask that hides the ache of abandonment, and deep down, you know it. So what becomes of that child when they grow up? They turn into adults who never feel safe, even in calm rooms, lovers who flinch at softness, givers who can't receive, people who apologize for crying, who tense up at kindness, who mistake exhaustion for achievement. That's the price of premature maturity. If your childhood trained you to be strong instead of soft, to be silent instead of honest, to fix others while ignoring your own pain, then adulthood becomes a waiting room for a rescue that never arrives. But here's the truth. No one is coming to save the child you buried. You are the one who must return for them. You are the one who must kneel beside that frightened version of yourself and whisper, "You didn't deserve that. You were just a child. You get to rest now." This is where shadow work begins. Not in fixing, not in pretending, not in bypassing your pain with spiritual slogans or fake positivity. It begins in facing the parts of yourself you've exiled, the scared, the angry, the ashamed, and saying, "I see you, I hear you, and I'm not leaving." That's what repair truly is, and it hurts, because it asks you to feel everything you once had to bury, to grieve the birthdays where no one showed up, to mourn the innocence you lost while taking care of people who should have cared for you, to let yourself finally cry for the small you who had no one to cry for them. But that grief isn't weakness, it's thawing. It's life returning to frozen places. It's proof that you are finally safe enough to feel. Now, let's talk about how those survival patterns continue to haunt you as an adult. You might become the unofficial therapist of every friendship, but never share what's actually going on inside you. You might be praised for your independence, while secretly terrified that needing anyone makes you unlovable. You might find yourself in relationships where you overfunction, managing, fixing, explaining, and quietly wonder why resentment keeps growing. You might struggle to say no because boundaries still feel like betrayal. These aren't personality flaws. They're coping mechanisms, once necessary, now outdated. And the good news? They can be unlearned, but only if you stop glorifying your strength long enough to honor your wounds. One of the most healing questions you can ever ask yourself is, what did I need back then that I never got? You might hear the answers whisper back, I needed someone to tell me it wasn't my fault. I needed someone to notice my pain. I needed to play, to rest, to laugh without fear. And slowly, tenderly, you begin to give those things to yourself, not to fix the past, but to finally stop reliving it. This is how you stop searching for parents in your partners. This is how you stop mistaking anxiety for intuition. This is how you stop running from the child you were and start embracing the adult you're becoming. Carl Jung once wrote, "There is no coming to consciousness without pain." People will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing their own soul. Shadow work asks you to face it all, the forgotten, the ashamed, the angry, the small. Because healing isn't about becoming someone new. It's about remembering who you were before the world told you who to be. So if you're someone who had to grow up too fast, remember this. Your maturity was never the problem. The problem was that you didn't have a choice. But now, you do. You can choose gentleness over strength. You can choose stillness over vigilance. You can choose to stop managing other people's storms and start tending to your own calm. It won't happen overnight. There will be days when you feel small again, fragile again, scared again. Good. That's healing. That's the child finally coming home. Let them cry. Let them rest. Let them play. Let them exist without earning it. Because you're not broken. You're becoming whole. And maybe, for the first time in your life, you're finally growing up, not through fear, not through duty, but through truth. You never had a childhood, but you still have a future. And this time, you get to write it.